This is the house that made me fall in love with history. The Gower House was an inn for weary travelers. It's situated on the south bank of the confluence of the Ohio and Cumberland Rivers in Smithland, Kentucky, in Livingston County. Yeah, it's still standing. Smithland was established around 1805 and was once a thriving river port. The Gower House sits on lot number 3 on Water Street, overlooking the Cumberland River. So this is a place that I fell in love with history, and it is because of this house right here. This is called the Gower House, and it was built in 1790. Well, actually, I don't believe it was actually built in 1790. I believe it was built in 1824, but there was a building here that was an inn and a hotel starting in 1790. But this is the Gower House. Like a lot of old buildings, this one is reported to be haunted, and quite a few historical figures were reported to have slept at the Gower House. Among them are Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, Aaron Burr, John James Audubon, Clara Barton, Benedict Arnold, Jenny Lind, and Charles Dickens. Ulysses S. Grant and his troops drank from the mineral well in the courtyard, and local folklore reports that Zachary Taylor was informed of his election to the presidency while staying at the inn. Henry Clay held court under an old elm tree that was in front of the inn, dubbed Judge Elm. It's reputed to have been the site for the first hanging in western Kentucky. The architecture is described as Georgian or early federal, very similar to that of colonial New England homes, taverns, and inns. The wall structures are 16 inches in depth, and the foundations are formed of limestone rock, some measuring as large as 3 by 6 feet. The Gower House was constructed in a U shape with verandas overlooking the center courtyard. A mineral well is situated at the center of this area. In 1857, a fire destroyed half the building, leaving the present L-shaped structure. A Methodist ministers' conference was being held at the time, and they formed a bucket brigade to the river to extinguish the fire. Henry Wells had this inn built sometime after 1824, and Stanley Gower was the first proprietor of the Gower House, and at that time it had no less than 25 guest rooms. Gower eventually purchased the property and 5 slaves in 1836 for $5,700. At that time, the inn was known as the Bell Tavern. And it was during this time that Edward J.C. Judson, also known as Ned Buntline, came to Smithland and published his newspaper, Ned Buntline's Own. He was quite a character. He performed with Buffalo Bill, wrote Western stories, and was the maker of the Buntline Special Revolver. Henry Wells reacquired the property in 1838, and upon his death in 1841, it passed to his half-brother, John Wells, then to his son-in-law, Woodward Allen, who lived in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I was incredibly lucky to find letters from Benjamin Barner to Woodward Allen. Barner was a neighbor and a solicitor, and he was trying to sell the property, and he was having a lot of difficulty. In these letters, he talks about the cholera epidemic of 1849, the St. Louis fire, and the annexation of Texas. Finally, in January of 1849, the property was sold for $1,800 to John C. McGraw, and that shows that Smithland was in decline because 11 years earlier, this property was sold for $5,700. The river was no longer the main route of travel. People and goods were now using the railway. The final blow came when the Louisville and Nashville Railroad bypassed Smithland altogether. The 1850 census lists McGraw's household as his wife Lucy, their 3 children, and 10 adult slaves. There were also 22 men in residence at the Gower House at the time of the census. They included clerks, a justice of the peace, the postmaster, a physician, the sheriff, a merchant, and there were also 13 men whose occupations were listed as boatmen. In 1855, the Masonic Lodge purchased the lot at auction for $557. 2 years later, in 1857, a fire destroyed over half the structure. In 1860, the Zanona family from Genoa, Italy purchased the property, and they ran a post office from the Gower house, and they also owned a grocery store in Smithland. And this house remained in that family until the 1960s, when Dr. David Hoy, who was a local author, bought the property and intended to restore it. Unfortunately, he died before his dreams could be realized. The property was then passed to the Roberts Fraley family, who remain the owners to this day. And so I brought my family with me today because I really want to share this. I brought my daughter, my granddaughter, and my brother and my son up here because I want to share this with them. This house means a lot to me, and I used to have a website. I spent about 10 years researching this town and this house, and I loved every minute of it, and I want to share this and wanted to share it with them, and I want to share it with you. Okay, so right here they used to have this big, huge elm tree, and they called it the hanging tree because that's where they would hang everybody. And it got struck by lightning, and they took the trunk of the tree and they carved it into a statue, and they moved it over here and they created a pavilion, and it's not there anymore. Everything rotted away. Yeah, so this is the Cumberland River, and it dumps into the Ohio River, which is why this town is here. Because this Cumberland River, it goes up to Nashville. So this is a river that runs in front of Nashville.
So they used
and then
it.
So this dumps into the Ohio, which down further dumps into the Mississippi. So this was a huge traffic
Trading.
Yeah. So there was lots of boats, and so they would be, this whole riverfront right here was full of nothing but boats and stuff. And this way, this was nothing but inns and warehouses, and there was tons and tons of people, and they would ship cotton bales and tobacco, and it just all came through here. And so a house like this was built for people who were traveling on the river, mostly people who worked on the boats. They would stay here and spend the night. And it wasn't like you just got one room to yourself. There were, you see, we'll go back here and we'll look, but you can see there's a bunch of rooms, and it looks like a normal hotel, but in there you would have 6 or 7 people. 3 people would share a bed. There would be mattresses under the bed. You'd pull them out, or you just sleep on the floor. So it was not like the Hilton. Definitely not like the Hilton. But yeah, and it used to be bigger.
Why did they decide to save it?
Well, it just hasn't fallen down. That's why it's saved. But it used to be much bigger. So it went all the way over here.
Okay, come over here towards
and you
us.
can still see the foundation. There's some foundation marks right
Just
here.
walk towards us. You don't need a jacket. Odie.
So it was connected, and it burned down. So this half burned down. A slave had taken some coal, put it in a coal bin to take it out, and dumped it, and it caught fire. And so this whole part of the building was gone. And so it was a U shape. So you can see, they've got the foundation. And then
Brick right here.
right here in the middle was this was their well.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be.
I'd imagine people would.
And there's a rumor that during the Civil War, so the Union forces occupied Smithland, and there is a rumor that they buried some gold down here. I don't see any gold. I see some trash though.
Yeah.
There's definitely some trash. Yeah. So this, like I said, this building was
Is
went.
this what the well would look like, or
No,
they laid
it's
this,
been covered over.
so this concrete is new? That's
Yeah,
laid
so
over
that's
it?
that's been covered over, but you can see they had a wraparound porch, and there's a porch. But my mom we used to sit right out here in our station wagon, and she would tell me the most amazing stories about this place. She would tell me stories about the little Indian girl who used to live here, and then the little Indian boy who lived across the river, and they loved each other so much, and that they would swim across the river to see each other. I mean, she'd make up all kinds of stories, and then she'd steal stories and tell them. Like, she said that some old lady used to live here, and she was heartbroken because she got stood up when she was getting married. And she always wore a wedding dress, and she was walking by the fire grate and it caught fire, and she died. You know, she stole that story from Charles Dickens. So, but you know, when I was a little girl, I thought all that stuff really happened here. So I love this house. If I could, I would buy this house and I would restore it. That's how much I love this house. I used to have a website. I don't know. Yeah.
What happened to the website?
Well, it was, you know, too expensive to maintain, and nobody went to see it. You know, there's something over here. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
So all viewers need to go to your website, basically.
It's not there anymore, but I've never seen this. Oh, and then over here, beyond all that wooded area, there used to be the Macy house. And it got burned down.
Somebody blew it up, right?
No, yeah, some stupid kids caught it on fire, or arson, and so it's not there anymore. But the interesting thing is that there's a rumor that there's tunnels that lead from the Gower house to the Macy house, and I don't know if they ever found them or not. But what is
How would you figure out if those tunnels were under here? Couldn't they do some sort of scan of the ground?
Well, yeah, they could, but that stuff's expensive, and you know, this is a little bitty town in the middle of western Kentucky that, you know, maybe population of 200. I mean, you know, it's nobody cares. Nobody cares about this place. I'm sure those people care. But
How did they become owners? Like, they bought it?
her dad purchased it in the 80s, and he was going to restore it, and he never did. What he did do is he took out all the floors, all the woodwork inside, all the mantelpieces, and they're gone. Nobody knows what he did with them, but they're gone. Yeah.
The Gower house was originally built in a U shape, and at the front of the property would have been these 2 rooms on each floor, and these rooms would have been divided and would have contained the common area, a dining room, the tap room, a gaming room, and the ladies' parlor, and possibly a ballroom. The structures in the rear, they were divided into the guest rooms.
And then if you look over here, we can see the room.
So it's gonna leave it until...
Yeah, they're gonna leave it until it falls apart. Look at this foundation, though. Look at this. Ooh, look at those bugs. What are those?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw them walking around over there in the yard. They're pretty weird.
Oh my gosh.
Destroy them.
Ew.
We have no idea what these bugs are. I'm afraid that they're termites. If anybody knows, please let me know in the comments.
For real, that these are the original nails and
No,
wood?
this is not. This
part, the deck is not
the
original?
deck is not original. But it would have looked just like this. And you see, these are the doors that went to the individual rooms. This porch would have looked just like this, though. But the only way you could get to these rooms was from the outside. So this over here, you can see it's got 2 fireplaces on this side. Let me get down here. What's up there, puppy dog? Yeah, so you can see there's 2 huge fireplaces right here, because it gets cold here on this river in the winter.
Oh, yeah, fireplace.
Yeah.
Oh, bugs.
Yeah, there are bugs everywhere. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame. At least it's still standing. Every time I come to Smithland to visit this house, and my biggest fear is I'm gonna come down that road and I'm gonna see this house in absolute ruins.
When I was doing my research in the early 90s, I did manage to get inside this house, and as you can see from these photographs, the inside is completely gutted. All the woodwork is gone, and it's an incredibly eerie place, and we are going to get to stick our heads in there a little bit and see what it looks like today. A few years ago, the owner attempted to restore this building, and she was going to put a restaurant in here, but this building required so much money to make it habitable, it was impossible.
And these bricks, Jasmine, these bricks were made by slaves, handmade by slaves. Every one of these bricks.
Yeah.
Yep, slaves built this house. Hey, look, we're just on the first part of our adventure. Okay, I'm gonna do this. You guys know I don't like to trespass, but I'm gonna do it because it's this house. There's stairs. It's crazy to think how much life this room used to hold and all of the stories that it could tell. There was once even a murder here in the 1840s. Dr. John Brown was dining here one night and became drunk and belligerent. One of the clerks asked him to leave, and Dr. Brown refused. There was a scuffle as the clerk tried to remove Brown, who had by then brandished a knife. The fight that followed resulted in the death of the clerk in one of the two doorways. Look at that. That's that fireplace. Amazing.
I'm gonna go in there.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you know, I never trespass, but I did come in a little bit, and I am so tempted to go upstairs, but oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. We gotta get out of here. Let's look at this. And you guys, if you watch my channel at all, you know how scared I am of wasps. If we were here in the summertime, I don't think I'd be able to be staying where I am because I would be having a full-blown panic attack. So thank goodness we're here in the winter. Part of the outdoor kitchen. And then we walk over here. This is where that pavilion was, where they had Judge Elm. And I can't remember for the life of me what statue that they carved out of it, but I bet we're gonna find out here. Henry Clay. Okay, so yeah, in 1994, the statue of Henry Clay was here, and it was sculpted from old Judge Elm tree, which was just right down there. And there's the Gower house. And here we have the confluence of the Ohio and the Cumberland. So this is the Cumberland, and this is the Ohio River. Thank you guys so much for coming with me on my visit to the Gower house. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I did. I always enjoy myself when I come up here and visit, and I always come up here when I come to Western Kentucky and come home. And I also went to visit a few more historical sites, so please be sure to check out some of those videos because they're interesting as well. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.